Hello there, everyone. I'm Gaylen Morse, and welcome to Journey to Recovery. We appreciate having you along today. This podcast is entitled The 10 Essential Traits of Recovery, Part 1. On today's program, we'll talk with Dr. Hal Baumchen about character traits that make recovery successful. Developing these crucial qualities will increase your motivation and help you stay balanced, determined, and positive. Thanks for joining us today. Our podcast focuses on the co-occurring disorders of mental health and substance abuse. We present a wide range of thought-provoking, hopeful, and positive topics from a clinical yet practical perspective. And we provide a solid, truly integrated co-occurring disorder resource you can use in your treatment program or in your own recovery. Our host is Dr. Hal Baumchen, a licensed clinical psychologist and licensed alcohol and drug counselor. He is the Executive Director of Northland Counseling Services and the Clinical Director of North Star Regional Co-occurring Disorder Treatment Programs. He's an author, a speaker, and clinician with over 30 years of counseling experience. I'm here today with Tim Bode, Operations Director at Northland Counseling Services, and with Dr. Hal Baumchen, our host at Journey to Recovery. How's everyone doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Gaylen. You do such a great job at that, doesn't he?
He does.
I'm always impressed. Like, how does he get through all of that without making any mistakes? So, that's great. Thanks for doing that.
I'm doing well too, Gaylen, but it's still early. So.
Well, that's...
So, what's on today's docket, Dr. Hal?
Yeah, Dr. Doc. I'm working with a surgeon over at St. Francis Hospital, and his name is Dr. Doc. So just a curious name for a doctor, isn't it?
And I know a dentist whose name is Doctor. No, I don't remember his first name, but Doctor is
Oh, Dr. Doctor?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, what's on the docket today? We're going to talk about a poster that an infographic that I ended up working on, and it's called The 10 Essential Traits of Recovery. I've been writing and using client resources in our counseling clinic and in various outpatient and residential treatment programs for a long while, both to help mental health problems and substance abuse problems and those co-occurring disorder problems that we talk about on this program. My clients have appreciated that I can speak their language and that I understand their struggles and give practical solutions that have been hope-filled, inspirational, and positive.
So can you tell us a little bit about what you've written lately?
I've been working on that Journeys book, and I know you've helped me with editing, and then that book was designed to, again, help people that are in a treatment program process some of the material. So it's divided up in chapters or lessons that help people look at co-occurring disorder issues such as anxiety or depression and substance abuse issues and what triggers your cravings or how to prevent relapse. So that was a book called Journeys. Then it was successful. Patients liked it. I liked it. I was happy with how we could use it in the residential treatment center where I continue to work. But I needed more material, so we started a book called Destinations, which really is a continuation. It has additional topics, looks at recovery issues and mental health issues. Again, very practical and relevant for patients going through treatment programs. So I've been working hard on those.
And tell us what you've discovered during that process of writing those books.
Well, during that time, and probably even before, I noticed that those who obtained lasting recovery had certain qualities in common. Not only did they have similarly desired sobriety behaviors such as abstinence from substances and attendance at meetings and reduction in legal entanglements, all of that was true, but those who succeeded also diligently worked on developing key character traits. So I started to look at what are those traits that people had in common.
So recovery then is more than just changing the drinking behavior.
Right. Wouldn't you suspect that? Like if you just tried to change your behavior, and maybe you've done that in the past, just going to think the way I've always thought, be the way I've always been, and then somehow act differently, that's going to be tough.
Right, and it seems like you can do that for a little while, but after a while you fall back into those old habits, and so long-term change just doesn't happen that way.
Right. I always think that anyone can stop swearing in front of the judge for a few moments. I mean, at least most people can do it for a few moments and then get outside the courtroom and just rip the judge in two, with a lot of bad language. But for a few moments, they can muster enough willpower. But it doesn't represent any change in character, does it? So I think that's what you're getting at.
Right. So, Dr. Hal, you've written these 10 essential traits that everyone in recovery should cultivate. And I think we're confident that as those in recovery develop each of these qualities, that they will strengthen their resolve, increase positive momentum, and establish that incredible life of recovery that they desire.
Right. If you want a great recovery, you're going to have to change up some attitudes and characteristics and personality traits. So we're going to talk through those.
Yep. So we'll start today and probably finish on our next podcast. So let's get started. The first one is to stay honest.
Sounds important right off the bat, doesn't it? Where you honestly come to terms with your addiction and you take a fierce moral inventory, make a rock-solid commitment to truth and honesty.
And that's not only with yourself, but also with others.
Right. Yep. So I think when we're in the middle of our addiction, we end up lying to ourselves and to anybody else who will listen to us. We're lying. We talked, on Wednesday, Tim, when we did that seminar, those 3 lies that kill recovery. And the first one was, I don't have a problem. Just that denial, that inability to admit that I have anything that's abnormal or I have anything that is going to be considered a problem for me or other people. This critical trait begins our list, and it becomes both the starting point and the foundation of our recovery. Understanding and admitting the depth of the problem and the consequences that follow pushes the start button. So it's always great to admit that you have a problem. But one of the ways that you get at the problem is looking at the consequences that came along with it. Like, well, my drinking's not a problem. Well, let me stop you for a second. You had 2 DUIs, your wife left you, you just lost another job, you don't have any money, you're bouncing around from couch to couch. Maybe you have more of a problem than you realize. So it's nice to be able to honestly look at that without deception, without minimizing your problem, without denial, without that rationalization that's so common.
Right. Number 2 on the list of 10 essential traits is to stay aware.
But before we go on, I was just curious, Gaylen, Tim, do you think people struggle with that honesty piece? I'm assuming that I'm not the only one who sees that.
No, absolutely. I think that's true. And I think even those who aren't struggling to recover from addiction sometimes struggle with honesty. We always want to present the best possible picture of ourselves.
Right.
We don't want people to see what problems are going on in our lives.
So we minimize things like I always run late or I procrastinate or something like, well, I do once in a while.
Yeah, right.
Even small things is what I'm getting at.
Right, exactly.
I have some friends that you always tell them the party starts half an hour earlier,
Right.
but they don't have a problem with promptness.
Right,
Yes.
sure. Or lying or cheating on your taxes or something, and people minimize that or rationalize it like, hey, everybody does that. I mean, if you can get away with it, what's the problem? So here we're trying to just slow ourselves down and take a good, honest look at our own behavior. And again, these 10 essential traits, we started with stay honest. I thought it was a good foundational piece, a good place to start. If you're going to build everything that comes after this on a lie, you've not built very much.
Or it's going to come down very quickly.
Yep, it's going to crumble, and you're going to get caught lying again, and that's going to erode all the trust that you had built up and that kind of thing.
Right. Okay. Now,
Finally, let's
now
move
number
on.
2, stay aware. Be aware of your own temptations and those things that would trigger you to slip back into using again.
You really have to know your vulnerabilities here. Even though you have begun your journey with honesty and probably great enthusiasm, there are forces that appear aligned against your progress, looking for clever ways to pull you back into old damaging patterns and destructive choices. Most of us have some vulnerabilities, things that kind of we feel like we got to watch kind of carefully. How about you, Gaylen? You got any vulnerabilities?
I don't think so. I think if I did, I'd be aware of them.
Yeah, I think we all think that. It reminds me of this woman. I do bariatric surgery assessments. So I'm talking with this woman about her eating habits. And I asked her, hey, do you do any mindless eating? And she contemplated for a moment, kind of looked up at the corner of the room and said, not that I'm aware of. So many of us are like that. Do you have any of these vulnerabilities, temptations, things that draw you back? Boy, I just can't think of any. No, I don't think so. And if I did, I'm sure I'd be aware of them.
And I think it's also true that for all of us that it's easier for us to spot those things in other people than in ourselves, right?
Right. These blind spots, like having something on your face in a restaurant, and I can see it. You can see mine, and I can see yours, but I have trouble seeing mine. So we really need somebody else to help us be aware.
Right. I was going to say points out the need for seeking professional help in those situations, because it is hard for us to see what needs to be changed in ourselves.
Right, which is probably the whole reason that we're going to develop this awareness. Why bother trying to stay aware or be aware of our own temptations or vulnerabilities? But if I can develop this awareness, if I get better at seeing it or believing when somebody else sees it in me, if I can develop that awareness, it's going to help me stay strong in my recovery. Identifying the enemies of change allows you to build an adequate defense and strengthen yourself where you can, and avoid those situations where you must. Can you guys think of anything that somebody with a substance abuse problem should avoid? What comes to mind?
The substance.
Yeah, and sometimes where you buy it, who has it, who you use with, so not just the substance itself, but some of the environment or circumstances that go along with it.
Right. I was going to say those situations that would trigger you or have triggered you in the past to use. If you're not aware of those, you find yourself back in that situation again, and then have a hard time really avoiding using. But if you become aware of them, then you can, like you said, build up that defense and know that you should avoid those situations.
A pastor you and I both know once preached a sermon about when the bomb goes off, there's really nothing you can do about it. But 3 miles away, when you lit the fuse,
yeah,
you had a lot
That's
of
where you should have intervened.
You had a lot of opportunity to intervene at that point.
Right,
yes.
Right. Have you ever walked? I mean, you swear off cupcakes. No more cupcakes for me. I'm done with cupcakes. Okay, or Hostess Twinkies, or what, fill in your food of choice here. And then you walk into the party, and hey, Hal, you want a cupcake? Oh, okay, serve it up. I'm good. Yeah. That didn't last very long. Your motivation just diminished quickly.
Number 3, stay grateful. So remain humble and accepting. Be grateful for another chance to get your life back.
Right. This is a big one for me, to try to go through life being thankful and grateful. Instead of reviewing what went wrong, I try to review what is going right or what I'm happy about and some of those things that I'm grateful for. And when I think about the guys in the treatment program, the residential treatment program that I work with, I'm also involved in an intensive outpatient treatment program. Many people have been through a treatment before. And so there they are in their 4th or 5th or 6th time of treatment, and you could be resentful pretty easily. But I try to help them see that, hey, you get another chance. You don't get a second chance. We've already burned through that one. You get another chance, and be grateful for that. This is an opportunity to get your life back. So regularly rehearse specific kind actions that people have done to you and for you. That can help you feel grateful or be thankful for another chance at a relationship. Somebody forgives you or trusts you again. Be grateful for that. And a chance to maybe go on and do some sober living in a halfway house or a sober house or another treatment program, just to be thankful for that instead of feeling forced. This allows you to be humble and value people and be grateful because they see the best about you and the best about your recovery.
You know, before you guys move on, allow me to jump in here for a minute and direct our listeners to some of the resources that are available on our website. We're always adding new materials such as podcasts, blog articles, lessons you can use in your treatment center. Today we're talking about the 10 essential traits of recovery. We have a wonderful infographic that covers this material, available as a free download. Just enter the user code PODCAST and get yours at no charge. Also check out Dr. Hal's Journeys Co-occurring Disorder Lifestyle Resource Manual. This manual is packed with clinical wisdom gathered over 30 years. It's a full-color and easy-to-read resource containing hundreds of treatment ideas and strategies that work. You'll find this resource thought-provoking, hopeful, and positive. Here's Tim to tell you how you can get your copy.
Thanks, Gaylen. You can get both a copy of the Journeys Manual and the 10 Essential Traits of Recovery at journeytorecovery.com. Just go to the website and look on that homepage for that information. To get your copy of the Journeys Manual, you can click on the workbook link at the top menu, and there you'll find a more complete description of the manual and information on how to order either a printed copy or a downloadable copy.
So, Tim, we're talking through those 10 essential traits of recovery. I have the infographic in my hand, and we've already covered to stay honest and stay aware and stay grateful. And we're working through this list. So what else do we have today?
So the next one on the list is to stay positive. Keep a positive, upbeat, and optimistic attitude.
You can smile, laugh, enjoy your life. This is one of my favorites. I don't have trouble being optimistic. I think tomorrow's going to be a great day. And if it turns out today is just a really rotten day in every way you can possibly think about it, I think tomorrow's going to be a better day. It's just in me pretty deep. So I'm a positive person, but I think it's a great attitude that you can cultivate in your recovery program. Being positive should not be dependent on your circumstances. Well, my wife was mad at me this morning, and then I dropped my toast, peanut butter side down, and traffic was bad, and I heard it's going to have some thunderstorms this afternoon, so I'd rate my mood about a 2 on a 1 to 10 scale. Well, now this fellow has rated his mood based on situations and circumstances. It's not coming out of his character, it's coming out of the things going on around him. Really, I'd like to see you get your mood and attitude disposition detached from circumstances and attached to your own character. So I'm kind, loving, patient, peaceful, and so I stay positive because of that.
How do you nurture, there's the word I'm looking for, being non-dependent on your circumstances?
Yeah. How do I nurture that? It's a great question, far beyond the scope of this little podcast, Gaylen.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, but I think, well, let's find clever ways to nurture that. So unhook from the circumstances. One of the things that I do is I really rehearse what went right, not what went wrong. That helps me unhook from what just went wrong. Don't go over that. Don't repeat that. Don't tell so many stories about that. Don't cry while you're talking about it. Rehearse what went right, what you have, not what you lost, those kinds of things. So again, the rehearsing of the positive helps you stay positive.
I could hear people saying in response to that, well, that's not real life. That's not reality.
Yeah. Right. For me, I don't know, Tim. I think it is my reality that there's always something that went right. You know, like electricity came on this morning, the water worked, water was warm. My wife was there, hadn't left me overnight. You know, I'm pretty grateful for those things that went right. So I could focus on the things that didn't go right, but that's not my choice. My choice, my will, is to rehearse what went right. That helps me stay positive. Choose to look at what went right, not what went wrong. Rehearse what you have, not what you've lost. And remember who you are, not what you've done. That's different for me. You know, my identity is not just my last mistake. My identity is wrapped up in, you know, these character traits, being kind and loving and patient, instead of my last screw up.
Right. So those people I just mentioned, those who might say, for me, you know, things seem to go wrong. That's my reality. Well, as you said, it's really a matter of focus, because there certainly are things that, like you said, they could point to in their lives that are good and positive. They just choose not to see those or focus on those.
Right. And then you could talk about something like where your lawnmower didn't start, and then that feels just terrible. Or you went through a divorce and it feels like I will never recover from that. That is the most painful, terrible, horrific thing anyone could ever go through, and my life is forever ruined. So I don't want to say that divorce is pleasant, but don't use that catastrophic language either. So, you know, tomorrow can be brighter. You can have some friends around you. You can make some progress. You can move through this. So, again, the way you speak about it, Tim, I think you're onto something there. You can change your direction. And of all the directions you could name, up is my favorite one.
Mine too.
And speaking of up, you're going to take a trip here, aren't you? Going to go up in an airplane?
Yes, tomorrow morning we're going to fly out to Los Angeles to visit our oldest son, Reed.
Oh, that'd be great.
For about a week. So we will be going up very soon.
It's a great direction to go. And so many times when we're speaking about our recovery or our program or our life, we're talking about things that almost pull us down instead of the things that lift us up. So try to cultivate this character trait as you go through your recovery program. Try to stay positive, believe the best about yourself and about your recovery and your program. And I always think, Tim, Gaylen, that we're always moving in the direction that we're talking about. So if we're talking about things that are dragging us down, we're moving in that direction. If we're talking about things that are negative, we're moving in that direction.
Yes, so I have a poster in my office, actually, that says you can't go up by thinking downward thoughts. So
nice.
Yeah. Okay, and then number 5, stay connected. Stay close to those who support your recovery and stay distant from those who don't. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Right. Being part of a close connected social group is one of the best ways that you can increase your overall contentment. Probably one of the best things you can do to help your recovery. It allows you to build accountability and get established in your recovery. Let somebody know what you're trying to do and they can encourage you in it. They're not the police officer for you, but they're just there to support and encourage you. And those connections with like-minded people offer camaraderie, encouragement. However, you have to limit the contact you might have with somebody who's going to drag you down, pull you down.
That can be kind of tough sometimes. I mean, staying away from those who don't support your recovery.
Right. If you have family members who don't support your recovery, every family event is drinking or using, and you seem like I just really have to go to those events. What am I going to do? I'm not going to be able to avoid my family. Is that what you're asking me to do? So those are tough decisions, aren't they, Gaylen?
Yes.
And do you have any thoughts about if you have a spouse who is not supportive of your recovery?
Right, because, I would want you to stay in your relationship. I wouldn't want you to leave your spouse just because they continue to use. But boy, that's really tough, isn't it? And my recovery is really important. My family's really important. Now I feel torn. Which one am I going to choose? Can't I have both? And sometimes it just seems like you have to get support from somebody who supports you, not going to be your spouse in this case. So get a lot of support from somebody else, and then you're sort of tolerating them, but trying to not get hooked back into the using patterns. Very tough.
So are we ready for a recap of the 5 we talked about today?
Yeah, I think so. So we're going to talk through this poster, and we didn't get through all 10.
Right.
We're going to come back to it.
Right. So first one on the list today was stay honest.
Stay honest with yourself and with others. A strong recovery is built on integrity and transparency. So say what you're going to do and do what you say. Don't lie about it. If you make a mistake, just own your mistakes. That's a good way to start the recovery process, and it became the foundational piece of all of these 10 essential character traits that you need to cultivate and develop while you're in your recovery program.
The second one we talked about today is stay aware.
What do you know about staying aware, Gaylen?
I wasn't paying attention. I guess I'm not aware.
That's great. Yep, know your vulnerabilities. Be aware of your own temptations and triggers to slip back again. And I think whenever you're making forward movement, there's something that wants to entice you back, pull you back, keep you down. So be aware what that is for you. Is it different for every person, Hal? Glad you asked. Yes, it is. It's not always the same. You got to identify what your vulnerabilities are.
Right. The next one is stay grateful.
Stay grateful allows us to remain humble and accepting. Be grateful for another chance to get your life back, another chance at recovery. So I'm so happy that I get another chance here, even though it's difficult to be in treatment or something, but be grateful that people can forgive you, you can move on, and you can get another chance. And find things in your life that you're thankful for. In our recovery programs, we often have people say one thing they're grateful for, one positive attribute about their selves. In another program that I'm involved with, we do 3 gratefuls for 30 days. So it's very helpful for people to rehearse what you're thankful for.
The next one is stay positive.
My personal favorite, to stay upbeat, outgoing, enthusiastic, funny, and have great stories to tell. To be positive and optimistic is a great trait that you can establish and continue in your recovery program. And having that positive, optimistic, upbeat attitude is going to go a long way in helping you succeed.
And then number 5 that we talked about today, stay connected.
Stay close to those people who support your recovery, and you'll have to stay a little distant from those who don't. So you're not going to get support from some people that you would say are key, but find people who do support you and your recovery, get closer to them, spend more time with them. You might have to distance yourself from somebody who just can't get themselves to support your recovery.
And Dr. Hal, tell us again why these are essential to recovery.
Well, when we started out, Gaylen had mentioned you just can't change a behavior. You're going to have to change your mood, attitude, and disposition. So when I was looking at how people get better, these were the 10 traits. We're going to go over 5 of them on our next podcast. But these 5 today and 5 on the next podcast, I believed were essential in really establishing a change in your life, a mood, attitude, and a disposition you can cultivate that's going to help you in your recovery.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to today's podcast. Today we were talking about the 10 essential traits of recovery. We have a wonderful infographic that covers this material available as a free download. Just enter the user code podcast and get yours at no charge. We certainly enjoyed having you along with us, and join us next time when we continue looking at the 10 essential traits of recovery, Part 2. Also, we invite you to check out resources on the web at journeytorecovery.com, where you can download other materials that help you develop skills to identify emotional problems, reduce symptoms, and prevent relapse at journeytorecovery.com. We've been visiting with Dr. Hal Baumchen, a licensed clinical psychologist and licensed alcohol and drug counselor. I'm Gaylen Morse. Thanks for listening to today's program. See you next time on Journey to Recovery. And remember, recovery is a journey. Enjoy the ride.